grew up with television where everything is being made for us. So we don't have to really use our intelligence and use our imagination. So that's why we become dull. So it's part of, but really the most powerful weapon of the demons, what is that? I just said it. Easy question. Television. Right? That's the most powerful weapon of the demons. That's how we see also how they conquered India. You know, they tried in so many ways trying to conquer India, but they couldn't, right? Because the culture was so strong. But when television came, and especially when satellites came, Bollywood came, and Hollywood came, maybe even more. Right? They could see what went on in America, and see Hollywood movies. Then in a matter of a few years, everything broke down. So this is not just fairy tale, this is real. We have the whole thing here, but we need to learn the art of really studying it, really trying to get into it when we read it, when we hear it. We need to be there. So what we hear in today's verse is that all these arrows, they didn't hurt the demigods at all. Because the demigods were so much more powerful. Why are they so much more powerful? Because they're protected by Krishna. That's really it. And sometimes we hear many stories, sometimes Krishna, he takes away that power. And then immediately they're defeated. When Indra, he made an offense to his guru, Brihaspati, Brihaspati sort of like just left, and he was no longer protected. And then the demigods lost everything. And then again they went praying, Krishna, please give us your protection again, please help us. And Krishna gives the protection again, the demigods wins. So the efforts of the demons were completely futile against the demigods here, because they have Krishna's protection. Prabhupada speaks about in the purport, that he says that sometimes, he's giving a beautiful Bengali saying, he says sometimes when a vulture curses a cow to die, it won't have any effect. So we often hear curses in the Bhagavatam, but most of the cases, and practically always, at least when they have some, if they work, the curses work, it is given not by the Kshatriyas, not by the Vaishyas, and not by the Sudras. It's given by the Brahmanas. It's normally Brahmanas who's cursing. Kshatriyas, they're cursing. They're like, I'll kill you, or that's the way they're cursing. But then they kill them with their sword or their arrows. But the Brahmanas are not like that. They are working on a much more subtle level, the level of words. So words are very subtle. We hear when Venu, he was not following Dharma, he was stopping the Brahmanas from their sacrifices, and he was saying, I'm God. How dare you come here and tell me what to do? I'm God. It's all over the Shastras, right? The monarch is God. Krishna says of monarchs, I'm of what's it saying?
People.
Of
Kings.
of men, I'm the monarch. Yeah, of men, I'm the monarch. So it's mentioned that the king is on the same level of God, as we hear the guru is on the same level of God, because he's representing God. So King Vena, he took that to be literal. So he says, I'm God, it's me you're worshipping. And then the Brahmanas, they tried in all kind of ways to persuade him. First they tried by flattery, that didn't work, then they tried by threatening, that didn't work. So then they just uttered hum. And immediately King Vena died. Immediately died. But normally they will not do that. Because that is not really the dharma of the Brahmanas. The dharma of the Brahmanas is not killing. What is the first quality of the Brahmana in Bhagavad Gita? No. Peacefulness.
Oh.
Yes, preachers.
So first peacefulness, and then so they're peaceful. And that's why we hear the famous story of Vishwamitra Muni coming to Dasaraj and saying, can you please help me? I have a problem out here, the demons are attacking me. And when Dasaraj says, no, I can't. And then Vasishtha, he starts preaching to him and says, you have to, you gave your words. You promised, so you have to. And by the way, Ramchandra will be completely protected by Vishwamitra Muni. He will be protected, completely protected by Vishwamitra Muni. Because Vishwamitra Muni, he could easily kill these demons by himself. He could easily kill Marichi, he could kill them all. So why doesn't he? Because that is not the duty of a Brahmana. So he's just following Dharma. He goes to the king and says, you need to give me protection. So then the king's duty is to go out there and actually take care. So that's the system. So the Brahmanas will work on this much more subtle level. And when it's really necessary, they will curse. Anyone can remember some curses from Bhagavad? Shringi. Shringi cursed Maharaj Pariksit to die in 7 days. Good. And he was just a boy. He was, how old? 7 years? 5 years? 7 years? Yeah. And still it had the effect. And it said even he was not completely pure. His father hadn't really taught him everything yet. But still it worked. He could not only curse, but he would curse Maharaj Pariksit.
This one who became Indra took the position of Nahusa.
Yeah, Nahusa. So what was the curse?
Well, he wanted to enjoy Sachi Devi. So he got all these sages to carry her, and then they cursed him.
Then they cursed him. Then he put his feet on their head or something. Yeah. Other curses? Yeah, all over Bhagavatam.
Narada Muni cursed Nala, Kuvera and Manigriva to become trees. Yeah.
And that's really good, because there you see actually they are peaceful. It's a benediction, ultimately. He sees you are behaving like trees. Okay, now get the body of a tree. So what you see is like, okay, you will get it anyway, but you'll get it in the next lifetime. I'll give it to you now, right? And then you can easily get rid of it. And then, of course, they started praying to him, please don't. And he said, okay, I'll give you a benediction. You will be born, you take birth as trees. You will take birth in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. And then Krishna, he comes and he tips over these two gigantic trees, and out come the Kula and Manigriva.
Also, Chitraketu was cursed by Mother Parvati.
Yeah, Chitraketu was cursed to take. What was the curse? To take birth on earth?
As a demon.
As a demon, to take birth on earth. He came, he laughed at Shiva. Shiva was sitting with Parvati on his lap, giving lecture. So imagine this again. When we read this, we should try to see this in front of us. Right? Like, imagine somebody sitting here in the Vyasasan, with his wife on the lap giving the lecture. So, Chitraketu, not really out of envy or anything like that, he found it amusing. So he sort of like laughing, but Parvati became very angry. And Parvati, she cursed him. Like, you just take birth, you become a demon. And he didn't even care. He said, okay, if this is, he said, I didn't really have any ill intentions or motivations, but if this is your desire, I'll be happy to take birth on earth as a demon. So he was born in a demonic family, but he was not a demon. Like Prahlad Maharaj is a demon, but he's not a demon. No, that was not a hand, that was a scratching.
I have had it. Yeah, I've thought.
Okay, very well.
No, det ved jeg ikke, om du har set det.
Ja. Vil du sige noget?
Nej, jeg har sagt, jeg sagde, jeg kan ikke tale mere. Det vil sige, at jeg føler mig trist og ked af. Jeg kan ikke tale mere.
Okay, det kan jeg.
Pandu was also cursed because he killed this, was it a deer that had sexual intercourse with his wife, and then the deer said that, I curse you that if you have sexual intercourse with your wife, then you will also die.
Yeah, and actually it was not deer, it was a Brahmana.
Oh, yeah.
That was the power of it, that's why they could curse. A deer cannot curse, like here we know only Brahmanas can curse. So they were actually Brahmanas taking the form of deer to propagate children because they had no shelter. And then Pandu, he was cursed. And there you can see again, because it was Brahmanas, because he took the form of a Brahmana, or they told the surviving, the male deer said, now you killed us, and now you will die. I'll give you the same curse. Not because I want to, I know you're pious king, a good king, but so you'll get rid of the suffering, otherwise you'll have a next life. Same principle. It's cursing out of a benediction. And he says we are actually Brahmanas, and they explain the whole story. We have taken this form to propagate.
Narada Muni was also cursed.
Yeah, but then the point is that Pandu, he knew exactly this would work. It's not he said, okay, maybe let's try it won't work anyway. He was completely convinced. So much so, he left everything in his palace, he left everything and went to the forest. He says, from now on I'll just go to the forest. He told Madri and Kunti. You go back to the palace, I'll go to the forest, I'll live in the forest. And they said, how can we live without you? Please take us with you. And he ultimately agreed, and they were living like that in the forest. And even though they knew, Madri and Kunti, they knew, we cannot tempt him in any kind of way because he will die. There was not even a doubt in their mind that cursed would act. So when this spring day, when he was walking in the forest together with Madri, collecting flowers or berries, and then everything was completely, the wind was sending the aroma of the flowers, and everything was very romantic. And then he saw Madri, he could see the sun shining through her dress, so he saw some textures there of her legs. And he became agitated, and he forced himself upon her. And she tried in all kind of ways to stop him. It's not he said, at last now I can get a child with my husband. She tried in all kind of ways to stop him, but that's only enhanced his desire. And eventually he performed the act, and immediately he died.
But still Kunti said that, she said to Kunti, it would never have happened with you.
She said to Kunti, okay, yeah.
This is out of the context for the movement. I was just thinking that these really spiritually elevated beings, they have love for everyone. They love everyone, all the beings. But do they also have love for themselves? Because it's said that you have to see yourself as being very fallen and like that. But do they also have love for themselves?
Yes, of course. One thing is they know they are pure spirit soul.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes. When we hear Krishnadas Kaviraj saying things like, I'm worse than a stool a worm in a stool, it's he's seeing himself like that, but he sees in his own condition, even though that practically is no condition. So, but yes, they of course they understand that even I am part and parcel of Krishna.
Yeah.
But I'm such a fool that I turn my back to him again and again. But yes, they do have. Yeah.
I don't have any Shastric quotations because I didn't read Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it seems like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he shows very morose feelings, like of depression and everything, and completely that's what he's thinking. But actually, that is his highest ecstasy. That he thinks that how can I be Krishna for him? How can I have any love for Krishna? If I had love, then I would die on the spot.
Good point. Maybe even better is when Ishvara Puri was leaving his body. He was saying, how will I ever attain the abode of... Huh?
Was it not when Madhavendra Puri left his
No.
body?
Oh yeah, sorry. Madhavendra Puri. And Ishvara Puri, he was there, and but then... what was the other? Ramachandra Puri. He said, no, now you should absorb yourself in Brahman. Why are you lamenting? Now it's time to absorbing yourself in Brahman. But Madhavendra Puri was saying, man, how will I ever attain? But there is mentioned that was, he says even, how can I attain my Lord's abode when you are here, he told to Ramachandra Puri, right? When you are here, so get out of here. And he practically cursed him. Not like giving a curse, but just because he dissatisfied the spiritual master, he lost all his taste and he became a fault finder. So even though, that's actually also a good point, even though the curse is not directly mentioned, just by dissatisfying a very elevated personality, you get a reaction. Just by dissatisfying him. It doesn't even have to say the curse, it'll still act.
There was also the story when this very envious Sananda, he came to one town and there was he was sitting in the courtyard where he was offending one of Nityananda Prabhu's associates. And then Lord Nityananda, or his associates, one of them, they cursed him and his whole family, everything died out. Because of one person, the whole village had to die.
Yeah.
Because they did not offer proper respect to a devotee. I don't remember, was it Nityananda he cursed or was it this...
Then later Nityananda he came and visiting and he was sitting in the courtyard. Or first, like he came and visited this person and then said, no, you cannot enter the room. He was like, you're dirty, or so you sit in the courtyard. Exactly. So and then Nityananda, he cursed him.
Is this the lecture or now questions and answers?
Both. Let's take question and answer. We are in the middle of it.
Yes, we hear about this war between demigods and demons, which is like very, for those who are in it, it is very much perceivable. But we are also in a war here, but more on the battlefield of consciousness against the demonic influences in this modern society. So how do we actually become aware of that and try to act like soldiers and not really just be, it's pretty good here.
Study the life of Prabhupada, the supreme soldier, the real general. He was constantly fighting, constantly. So many things, and Krishna arranged things, like maybe the most prominent is this was Mr. Nair. That when they wanted to have the Bombay project. So Prabhupada purchased this land actually in a jungle outside of Mumbai at that time from Mr. Nair. And then Mr. Nair, that was one of his way of making money, he cheated people. So he would sell people some land and then he would arrange by bribing some officials like that, he would arrange to get the land back. And then you of course you pay a down payment and he'll just keep that. So he tried to act like that instead of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada he purchased the land and like that, and then they were delayed, or some of the officials were delayed in giving the final permit. And then Mr. Nair just said, okay, you couldn't fulfill the conditions, so now you just have to vacate the land. And Prabhupada, of course, was not there all the time, because he was still traveling and preaching. So this was the devotees, mostly Shyama Sundara and Giriraj Maharaj, and then later Tamal Krishna became involved. Maharaj. So they were mostly taking care of it, negotiating on Prabhupada's behalf. So as he was trying this, the devotees became more and more despondent. One thing was they were living there in the jungle. And they told this to Prabhupada, we are from America, we used to donuts and we used to electric light, and here we have nothing, there's not even water. Right? And we have all these rats running all over the place, and there's all these diseases, we're constantly diseased, and Prabhupada, please, we don't want to stay here. And Prabhupada says, don't you want purification? And that was it. Right? Because Prabhupada was a fighter, his devotees became fighters. His disciples became fighters. So on top of that, now they had to fight with Mr. Nair. And he tried in all kind of ways to stop them, to the degree at one point he sent some gundas to try to threaten the devotees. So there came people there with machetes, machete, and threatened the devotees. And later it actually became physical. So the devotees again, and Prabhupada, we cannot stay here. And Prabhupada wrote back to them, actually we had a pretty good case. Because he was at the same time suing he was suing them like that, through through the police. So Brown said, actually, we have a very good case. So you just continue like that. And then after a little while, again the divorce became very despondent, and even their lawyer said, you should stop this. You will lose. And what do you want with this place anyway? This is a jungle. And the devotee thing, we can never live here. Right? But Prabhupada had a vision. So Prabhupada was again traveling. So at one point he sent one of his disciples, a female disciple, I can't remember her name now, one of them, a female disciple. You go to them and you tell them that there's no way they should stop the contract. You already have a contract, you shouldn't cancel that. But before she arrived, the devotees, they went and they talked to Mr. Nair and said, we'd like to cancel the contract. So they canceled the contract. And then just a few days, or maybe same day, this Malidi came and told them, I'm here on behalf of Prabhupada. He said, there's no way you can stop this contract. So Guru Maharaj, he had to go to the phone and talk to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, in a very angry mood, he just said, now everything is lost. But still he didn't stop fighting. Then he came to Hyderabad, and then he met there Shyamasundara, because Shyamasundara's daughter was, Mr. Nair was very fond of Shyamasundara's daughter, so they had some relationship. So he asked, can you please come and meet with Prabhupada, he wants to negotiate with you again. And then Mr. Nair, he brought his own guru, some yogi or something, because he was afraid Prabhupada would curse him or influence his mind. He knew Brahmana. So this yogi, and then they were sitting there taking prasadam. And then Prabhupada, after some time, he was sitting conversing, and Prabhupada yawned. And then this yogi, he said, oh, it looks, you're very tired, Prabhupada. We can negotiate later, so maybe you should take rest. And Prabhupada said, yes, I'm very tired, let's take rest. So then they went, and Prabhupada called in Shyamasundara and said, you go, no, Tamal Krishna, Maharaj. He says, you go and, because when somebody says you are tired, that means he's tired. So you go now in the room and you'll see they're both lying sleeping. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he tiptoed into the next room, and as Prabhupada said, they were both lying in a bed sleeping. So he went to Mr. Nair and very, very softly woke him up and said, shh, come on, Prabhupada wants to talk to him. So he took him without his guru. And Prabhupada influenced him to again make a contract. So again he made the contract. And then again, actually at one point the devotees cancelled it. It's completely crazy. Prabhupada got it together again. We are running out of time, so I don't think it very shortly. Prabhupada got it together again. He came to Mumbai, and again he was talking with Mr. Nair. Normally it was a very polite conversation, but no more. Now Prabhupada was furious and would just say, if you don't want this, give us back our money, we will vacate the property tomorrow. No, we'll vacate tonight, give us back our money. Do you have the money? So then Mr. Nair, he became furious, he ran out, I will demolish the deities myself. I'll break the deities. Same week he got hospitalized and he died. Really. And Prabhupada, when he heard it, first he just became silent, and then he recited this verse where it says even a sadhu is pleased when a snake or scorpion is killed. Prabhupada. And then it wasn't over, because now his wife took over. And she actually she influenced some persons she had in the government. So they attacked, and they came with a demolition crew to break down the whole temple. So they actually started with all kind of, whatever it is, tools to break down the temple. And the devotees, they were practically offering their life, sacrificing their life, because the deities were there. So they just wanted to protect the deities. So they were getting closer and closer, hour by hour, or minute by minute. So the devotees, they were sitting there, like you see demonstrations, lying in front of all these machines. So they were with all kind of machines trying to demolish the temple. And then the police squad came, because they just called the police, so the whole police came, and they took away, and they even dragged out the women by their hair, snatching. they got closer and closer and closer, and they reached the roof over the deities. And they were breaking down the deities. And last they got out, the police got out, was one Maridi Pujai, who was trying to close the altar doors for the deities. And they just dragged her out by the hair. And then one got an idea and called one of the life members who had some influence. Very intelligent. Should have done from the beginning. But often in situations like that, you don't think, you just react. So she called one, and he arranged something. He has his brother or something was in the government, and he arranged the whole thing stopped. So just before they reached the deity, the whole thing was stopped again. But then again, Mrs. Naya, she sued the devotees, and actually she didn't. Then the devotees, they made, Prabhupada says, you make propaganda for us. You go out and you first of all you use this. He said actually this was Krishna's arrangement, that they were trying to demolish the temple like this. Because now we have a very strong case. So he said you use this and you may go and make propaganda. So they were working, they made an agreement with Mrs. Naya, a new agreement, but it had to be done within a few days. So they were in like this very stressed situation. So they had a few days to build up the temple again before they were meeting in the court with Mrs. Naya. They had just a few days to build up at least some kind of temple, because there's a law in India where the deities are and there's a temple, you cannot break it down. So Prabhupada says, build a temple. So they were practically building a small temple in a few days. They were always working constantly. And at the same time, others was working at the newspapers and trying so many ways to get propaganda out there to win the citizens' help. And eventually it goes on, and at one point Mrs. Naya just gives up. And she says, okay, I surrender. And she agrees to meet with Prabhupada. And they meet, Prabhupada he's in Vrindavan, I think, someplace. And he's just about to give a lecture, and then he hears Mr. Naya there. So he stops and goes down and talks to Mrs. Naya. And then he doesn't finish it, he goes up and gives the lecture. And she's speaking until midnight, it says in the Lamacha. And then he goes back and she's still sitting there waiting in despair. And she falls at the feet of Prabhupada and says, I'm so sorry, I'm such a demon, I offended you, and I will agree to anything he says. And Prabhupada, he says, oh, you're like a daughter to me. Imagine. And he says, I'll take care of you. So then they agree to sign the contracts, and the whole thing is there. As they are signing the contracts, Mr. Naya, as he's signing, she just starts crying. And Tamal Krishna Goswami goes and asks him, why are you crying? He said, just a few days ago I got an offer for much more money than you were close to giving. So eventually Prabhupada won, but it was a long fight, and there were lots of sacrifice from the Prabhupada and from the devotees. And Prabhupada afterwards he said, that was a good fight. That was his comment. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.